Good morning.
Morning. Hi, Blanca. Can you hear me?
Morning, everybody.
Hi, John. Morning.
Okay, the only one that will not be able to join is Steve Ullman as he's traveling.
We're still waiting for a couple to join. Steve and Chris.
I'm gonna call Chris and I'm gonna
And
see.
Emmanuel.
Yes.
Chris is logging in right now. So, okay, that's good. All right, well, good morning, everybody, and I'm glad you could all make it. Appreciate your time, especially as it gets close to the holidays and the wrap up and traveling and everything. Obviously, this is a big issue, and we want to make sure we can address this properly as the school is looking to increase the flexibility of many programs to increase enrollments, make it easier for students, and the like. But obviously, this potential impact on compensation is sort of a concerning issue for a variety of reasons. So at this point, I guess we can, I don't know who we want to turn this over to. Is this going to be Hari or Paul, or who would like to talk first?
Yeah, I can start us off, John. So first off, thanks to all of you. I appreciate you guys meeting on a non-council day. There is definitely some urgency in getting the PMBA proposal forward so that we don't miss out on the grad council deadlines and in turn our ability to market the program for fall 2025. So there are two things. I think one is, John mentioned this point about flexibility that we are seeking for students. I think that's really the key. In fact, we were just discussing on how we might potentially market the program. Our goal is to market this program as one that offers a high level of personalization through the various flexibility options that it offers. Right? So flexibility in taking electives, flexibility in and convenience in terms of the modality that it offers, some blended modality where you meet sometimes in person. And we are even thinking of we are seeing a downtown location tomorrow, so that during the online classes, the ones that you're going to be delivering online, students, instead of sitting at home, if they're working in Brickell, they can go to the online space, the downtown space that we would have, and actually sit in a Miami classroom, but in downtown, and not have to rush through traffic to get here, right? So we're considering all of these possibilities, in large part because we have to meet the demand where it is, and the demand is one that is seeking greater levels of flexibility. So that's the intent of the design of the program, right? Now, I know that this creates questions, broader questions about flexibility for other programs. At this point, I can tell you that while there is that omnibus proposal that we are considering, I have no specific intention of changing any program, whether it's Gemba or other programs at this point. And we would of course share such such details with the school council before we make any such changes at all, right? So that's where we are with respect to this. So on the compensation side, the current setup and the current policy that the school has been following reflects two things, right? One is how much asynchronous content do you have versus how much synchronous content do you have. And roughly speaking, the percentages might be slightly off. When we've created blended programs, the large majority of our blended programs, so even the online PMBA, for instance, the one that we work with 2U on, has a significant in-person, a synchronous component to it. That's not physical in Miami, but online synchronous. And so the compensation, I believe, and Christine is here, so she can correct me if I'm wrong, is designed to take the synchronous component and pay for it using our regular credit hour rates. The asynchronous component is compensated through an initial kind of development fee. Is that what it's called, Christine? Development fee?
Yeah, it's a development fee, and a development and revision fee. So in that first asynchronous portion, there's a development fee and a revision fee.
Okay, so that's the way this is set up, right? So that's the understanding that I have about the compensation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the program. Um, so let me know what you guys are thinking.
I just got a little bit of a clarification. So this formula came from the 2U situation. Is that, where did this formula come from?
So go ahead, Christy.
No, I was just going to say the formula is a regular formula, so it's the base times 4% times credits. The determination that was made at the time that the online PMBA was being taught was that the amount of credits that were being taught live was about 1.5 credits instead of 3 full credits.
Sorry, my question
it's a regular.
Just to clarify, my question is, where did this idea, where was this first introduced, this issue of the asynchronous components? This came in with the 2U?
So I can share my experience with Gemba on this, right? So Gemba, which also the online portion of Gemba, which is roughly 2 credits of a 4-credit module, has roughly 50% asynchronous, 50% synchronous. So that's the, I don't know if it is formally calculated that way, but for online teaching in Gemba, for the inter-residency, you get paid 1 credit for a 2-credit class. Christine, am I saying this correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And also with our online MBA and online MSF and online accounting that we had previously with Laureate and CCIE, we were using a similar formula where there was a split up of, how much time was live and how much time was async.
Because I think I recall when 2U, that whole program was coming through, there was a lot of pressure to just get it done, meet the deadlines quickly, to meet the market and do all of these things. And some of this stuff related to compensation wasn't discussed with the council, and it kind of came as a surprise to many. And I think the 2U in general, I don't want to revisit the whole thing, but a huge mistake in my opinion, and we had to give 60% out. And even Laureate, where we're giving large percentages out, there's pressure on the viability of those programs economically. And whether or not we should even do those programs is another question. But if we're talking about increasing the flexibility for programs that we're doing in the school, in our school programs, I think many of us are very eager. I mean, I personally don't like hybrid. I prefer in person, but I'm happy to make adjustments and do whatever to, help the school increase the numbers and bring in more revenue. But it seems that if the part of the intent, or part of, I won't say intent, but if one of the big outcomes is that these programs, which many of our programs are going to be flexible, are going to wind up cutting faculty compensation in half. I mean, we have to integrate the asynchronous components. We've got to develop those, all of these different kinds of things. This seems like something that was unexpected, especially in a program where we didn't make the mistake of giving 60% of the revenue to a vendor.
Yeah, if I could just add on to that, I think, so if we're trying to think of, so we're rethinking how we deliver instruction to students, and I think we can't rethink that in the context of half of the things, how they're currently done. And so I think let's not have that as a benchmark. So I know Hari said this is how it's currently done, but we are rethinking everything. So we need to rethink that as well. So that's one. Secondly, I think what we're trying to do is, with greater flexibility for students, come greater work for the faculty. And to me, it seems like going in a reverse gear for faculty, because and it's like, okay, how do students want? So tomorrow students may want something else. If we want our faculty to be agile, I think if anything, we need to increase the compensation to faculty rather than decrease it. I know we had a very quick discussion with a few people in our department. In fact, I was told that the omnibus proposal, and I want to discuss the omnibus because this is the direction we're going with most of the programs, I think the overall discussion is important. I know that they had a pushback at the discussion rather than just talking about the PMBA. So, for example, I taught in the PMBA when it was offered. And if you ask me, and I love being in the classroom, and if you ask me to, okay, now I need to do certain things to deliver the same level of instruction and connection and experience that I can in a classroom, that's going to be a whole lot more work for me. And now you tell me that, okay, I'm going to be paid less, you're reducing the incentives for the faculty to engage in that kind of instruction.
But of course, Uzma, just kind of, at least what we're discussing right now is like the program is not working, so we get zero revenues and zero faculty get any compensation. So that's kind of our baseline, the true baseline. And just kind of from the outside, I don't know the history, but I mean, the Gemba numbers are pretty small and dwindling. So basically, at some point, it would not even be worthwhile to have the Gemba. It would continue the trend. And, you know, many of the programs are not doing well. And so, you know, like saying, yeah, let's increase the flexibility because that's where the times are, so we can get students, and let's get the revenue so we can pay faculty. That's the basically, and we cannot pay faculty unless we get revenues. And, you know, and I'm just saying as a general, you know, if we create programs that favor the employees and not the customer, as you know, in marketing, we're going to be out of business very soon. So in that sense, let's figure it out what the customers want, the students who pay us, and then we can compensate the faculty accordingly, as opposed to kind of like, let's figure out how we compensate the employees more. I understand that part, but I mean, let's kind of figure out like how to develop programs that actually are marketable and effective out there, and we'll figure it out. And you don't know me very well, but my first, I mentioned many times, and I intend to do that. The first people I want to compensate fairly and generously are the faculty. Development fee and compensation and everything. And of course, if we have successful programs that make money, we have more flexibility to do that. So in that sense, we have discussion with Harry and with Christine. If we do well and we increase the number of students, so we make more money, then obviously we can actually give higher compensation for faculty, so we can create such a formula. So I understand that it's obviously more work grading and dealing with more students, but of course the incremental revenue is much higher for us, so then we can compensate more faculty. So we're working on that aspect. The second one is we're working with Lily Steiner to develop that flexible ones, and we're discussing what is optimal in terms of online, in terms of format, synchronous, asynchronous. She gave us over the weekend a whole bunch of readings about like what's optimal and all the research on education, innovation, and so forth. So obviously we need to create a good product out there and it's done well, and then obviously we need to provide the proper training for faculty to to deliver and to do a good job. But again, we have to perhaps create something that is valuable to the market, so we can attract students and can compensate faculty. So that's I think putting the cart before the horse is always a problem. So let's kind of work together to develop a great program. And honestly, it's a market rate out there. I mean, obviously, we cannot create a program and it has to make money, obviously, for us. Otherwise, let's not do it at all. Also, it's I tell everybody we're all on this together, so we need to create the revenues. Everything is everything is transparent. You know exactly how much every program makes, and then after we pay the university and all the other vendors, hopefully we get out of, then obviously the first ones to get compensated are the faculty. So that's basically the idea. So anyway, I mean, we're discussing how to promote these programs, and as part of a strategic plan, we're talking about like personalizing the education and experience and try to make it more attractive for the students. So that's kind of the whole idea. So rest assured, I'll do my absolute best to compensate you if you are successful, and we all do a good job promoting them, developing them, offering them, and there is money here, we'll definitely make sure that the faculty are compensated fairly. We discussed training programs also for like different modalities and so forth, so the faculty can be trained whatever is needed. But we cannot expect honestly to say that we like the classroom experience and then we expect all students to come here and be happy. And even I would push back a little bit on the undergraduate. I mean, I'm not sure it's optimal either. So we're discussing on, it doesn't have to be like, fully online, but I mean, to having a kind of some online component in our undergraduate classes probably makes more sense. It's better and more personalized. You can use technology more effectively as opposed to saying the ideal format is 90 minutes in the classroom face-to-face with 50 students, and that's the ideal format. I totally disagree with that. So even on that front, we need to be much more innovative and see what actually works. And that's why we hired instructional designers who are experts on this, how we can better improve the educational experience. So anyway, I'm talking too much, but let's try to kind of work together to get things done and try to develop innovative, market-driven programs, and then we'll figure out the compensation down the stretch.
Yeah, thanks for that, Paul. And I think there are really two sort of central issues. And one is this increasing the flexibility and doing things in terms of, making more appeal to the market and the like. And the second is the compensation for, the faculty compensation going to change given that. What I will say is that, as I mentioned, the 2U thing kind of caught us off guard. We didn't know that compensation, that sort of stuck in. Even for the Gemba, most of the people that are doing the online Gemba portion are instructional faculty. So even that part of it. So this is the first time this issue of how the compensation is going to be arranged is coming before the council. And part of it is we had experiences in the past with less transparent people that didn't sort of give this sort of indication. So I just wanted to mention that there's the two things, and I think that people's, I think the willingness of faculty to sort of sacrifice, get trained, get up to speed on these things and to meet the market demands and adjust, I think there is a lot of goodwill there. What will be said is this asynchronous content, if it's for a core course and somebody else created the asynchronous content, even if they got a development fee, if I'm teaching it, I have to know what that is. I have to get well versed in it. I'm going to have to grade related to it. So I just want to point out that even the sort of development fee, one-time development fee, that has different implications if the same faculty person is always the one teaching it. But as we see with 2U, other people are coming in to teach, or somebody takes a sabbatical, somebody's got to do it. It's a core course, but this book is assigned to it, and it's a different book. So there's sort of ripple effects with what's currently there. Other people, thoughts or comments?
John, I agree with Paul. I don't think we can talk about compensation until we know what the program looks like. And I kind of gathered from Paul that he's very concerned with fairness. What I'd really like to know is what one of these programs looks like. I've never taught in one of them. So maybe somebody could tell me what, during COVID, I taught, asynchronously, but what do these blended programs look like? I guess that's the first thing I need to know. Maybe everybody else knows, but I don't know.
I can speak to that, Howie. So let me take the example of Gemba. Gemba is a blended program, right? So we have a 4-credit course called Enhancing Global Operations. Roughly about 2 credits worth of content is delivered online, and another 2 credits is delivered in person when they come for a 3-day weekend, right? So the online portion has roughly about half of it done asynchronously and the other half done synchronously. So think of a typical, and this is done over 7 weeks. So think of a typical week starting with some recorded video from me on, let's say, waiting lines, right? So I go through some base theory, I teach it as I would in a class. So this is some recorded version that you go through. You see a video for 3 15-minute videos, let's say. That's your content, right? And then you come into a live synchronous session for an hour and a half where we take that content, let's say it's an MM1 system, and we go through how to apply it, what are the contexts, then I introduce a small mini case, we discuss the case. That's what happens in the live session. So every week there's some content module that we've thought of. A portion of that is delivered asynchronously beforehand. A portion of it is delivered after synchronously, and we keep building on it. So the idea really, at least in Gemba, is that some of these definitional things that are more suited to asynchronous learning are delivered via videos that people can watch at their own leisure, versus the live sessions where you try and apply concepts, discuss small cases and so on, are done synchronously. So that's typically the design of the program. You do this for 7 weeks, get enough fundamentals, and then you come to a Gamba module for 3 days where we apply all of the concepts that you've learned in simulations, role play, case exercises, negotiations, all those kinds of things.
Thank you.
So Hari, a quick question on the logistics of these things. So if you have, so let's suppose you develop the asynchronous parts of the course. Now let's imagine Howie is coming to teach it instead of you, and he says, I don't want to use the content that Hari developed. So then he develops his own, and we can have every faculty that rotates through could possibly want to develop their own content, or is the idea that we're going to standardize the asynchronous aspect of courses?
So I'll give you two answers, Uzma, because I'm still getting acquainted with all of this. So in the Gamba program, the numbers have been small that we've never required more than one section, right? So whoever is taking the lead takes the lead. And when we've had a switch in faculty, we've initiated it at points where a refresh is required, right? So typically, if you commit to doing this, let's say for the marketing class, we'd ask you to do it for a 3-year term, and when you switch out is when we'll bring the next person in and they develop. So I've not encountered a situation where there's been some, like Jeff Weinstock is doing the video and Uzma Khan is teaching the in-person class. We've not encountered this in Gamba. I believe in the online PMBA, the one that's done with 2U, there are multiple sections. There's some primary kind of, think of a course coordinator type of person who's recorded the videos, and then others build off of it. Now that's been the structure for the core courses. To be honest, I don't know how the electives work on this. Christine, by any chance, do you know how the electives work?
I would say it's the same, right? Since we did a lot of the videos and development with the 2U recording, crew, and they were paying for all of those expenses. Most of them are recorded, and then another professor might do section 2 or section 3, and they get paid for the live section. But a lot of that, to answer your question, Uzma, right now, at this time, the people that have joined in doing that have not asked to re-record the content. They've been using the recorded content of the original lead professor.
So I taught in the 2U program early on, and my understanding is that if you, let's say somebody's on sabbatical or somebody's on maternity leave or paternity leave, whatever it is, or they just have other courses that they want to teach, if they develop this content, you have to use the same book that they did. You have to review that content. You have to answer students' questions about those contents, even if this is not something you typically do with a core course. And I think what we're looking at here, while we are very hopeful to bring back the PMBA program, what we're doing is setting up the template for the increased flexibility. And we're legitimizing the formula that may be in place but never went before the council. And while we can maybe revisit compensation depending on how things go, just to be clear, right now we are talking about compensation, and the compensation that faculty will get if this goes forward is they'll get paid roughly half of the credit hours that are offered. So if it's a 3 credit course, there'll be, and it has approximately 50% asynchronous content, they'll be paid as if it's a 1.5 credit, and if it's a 2 credit, they'll be paid as if it's a 1 credit. And in terms of teaching load, if this also affects how many courses you need to complete your teaching load, it's going to increase the number of courses for your teaching load. So I just want to be clear. There is a compensation plan for this program, and that's roughly the plan.
So, John, this is not a new program, so we didn't do a budget like we normally do for new programs. The way I see this portion is because it's an existing program and we're doing this. I mean, my sense was that this is not for want of effort. Our application portal for the PMBA program has been opened and has been open for 2 intakes every single year. And what we do is actually, I know people think that the program is paused and we've discontinued it. Application portal remains open, and when we make a decision based on the number of applications, and I get 3 enrollments or something like that, it doesn't make sense for us to start an intake, and so we just say we're not going to have an intake in August. It's very annoying to constantly have to keep saying this because we're losing some reputation in the market, even if it is with 3 people. So, I mean, my thought, as you know, I'm not on the faculty compensation side, I'm on the program side. So I want to make that very clear. So the goal for me really is to kickstart the program with a design that suits the market, right? And to adopt any established compensation principles. But I have not actually gone through and said, John, who'll be teaching strategy, will get this and it'll count towards this load. I just assume that all existing policies will go forward, right? I have no specific, I've not done specific research on compensation for PMBA.
Okay. Sarah?
Are we charging the same amount in this flexible program? Because I think this is essential to know based on compensation. Are we going lower since it's part online and there's a lot of competition? Has that been set?
So we are doing the benchmarking right now, Sarah, so I don't have a firm answer to this, right? So I can give you some examples, right? So we've met with every academic director this year at the start of the year to go over what we think are competitor programs that we've lost students to in the last couple of years, looked at their tuition to see where we are, right? One place where you see a stark difference, I mean, we would, I think, price in alignment with where the online professional MBA, the one program that we run with To Use Help is, right? Because I think that is based on market demand. So I don't think that we would be too far away from that program. That program, if I understand correctly, Christine, please correct me if I'm wrong, has a slightly lower tuition than our regular
What percent?
executive MBA. Christine, is it just simply multiplied by 25-30 for that program? Yes. So
Yeah,
I think
it's
at our full credit rate, and actually I think it's one of our least discounted programs in terms of tuition waivers. Christine, is that correct to say?
And that's what program?
That's the online PMBA. I keep saying online PMBA because I don't want to call it 2U MBA.
Okay. So, but it is, okay. So that's the online. Let me just get this right. So that's the online portion, and now you're proposing that it be, and this is my terminology, a hybrid program instead of strictly online. Is that how I can look at it?
Yes. So what we are doing is we had the other extreme of a program, right? I had the full face-to-face version of the online MBA program.
Right.
So what we are saying is that doesn't work anymore. So I'm going to move it closer to what the online MBA looks like.
Okay. So if I'm just trying to think about the marketplace, because I agree with Howie that and Paul, that unless we kind of think about this program and what are the revenues going to be. So if I were a potential student wanting to go in this program and I said, most of the time I want to be online. I'd love to be coming onto campus, but due to my work, they'll send me to Latin America. So that would be for me, and maybe I can attend one time, or I'm going to be forced to attend those sessions. I'm not sure what flexibility means,
Okay, so I can share the proposal that we presented. Let me pull that up. So very quickly, the proposal basically, guys, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the proposal's calling for, if you look at the table here, right? So this is how the setup.
It's showing the Windows Explorer. It's showing your Windows Explorer.
Well, we don't see a screen, but yeah.
Hold on. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes. I see a lot of writing. Right.
Yes. So if you look at the table here.
Why don't you zoom in on the table?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, now I see it better. I can.
Okay. Is this better?
Be nice if you made it a little bigger.
Okay, I see it. Okay, so I see async, sync online. Yes. But my question is that face-to-face, right?
Yes.
If I'm going to where, our marketplace could possibly be, I'm part of Latin America, whatever company, I have to go to Chile that week. I can still be part of this program where it has face-to-face, or I have to say I have to go to complete your complete online program.
I mean, the way the proposal is written
Yeah.
is that you would miss that class like you would miss a normal class in your face-to-face program, right? It's up to the faculty to offer that level of flexibility and say, I can provide you a Zoom link for this class, or I can record this.
But you're not doing. But that face-to-face, are you going to have an option that those people that cannot make week one because I have to go to Chile can join as in a Zoom call or something and be that, or no?
This proposal does not contemplate that. When it says face-to-face, it's expecting people to be here on campus.
Okay.
Right? To be honest, Sarah, I don't know whether that flexibility will be needed. The way we were thinking about it is, let's say you do one semester with us and then suddenly your company posts you in Chile and you have to go do a job there.
Right.
The reason why this curriculum mirrors the online PMBA curriculum is that at that point of time, you will exit from this program, go to the online PMBA, and continue your coursework there. And the online PMBA, of course, is built to be kind of fully online, so you can leverage the flexibility.
So I won't be with my cohort.
You won't be with your cohort. That is a downside to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I just didn't know what the flexibility meant, because flexibility for a lot of people mean, one day I have to be with my kids, the other day whatever, but I like the idea.
Several layers of flexibility that one can think of. This is what the proposal contemplates at this point. Now, if a year from now or 2 years from now we find that we need additional layers of flexibility, I'll come back to the school council at that point and say, guys, this is what we're trying to do. Right? Ultimately, it's about understanding the market and figuring out where.
So you're looking at the local by that face-to-face, though. So what the proposal is, that first week and that seventh week, in face-to-face, you're looking at a local market.
Yep.
Only. So if I'm out in.
Local is, I'm thinking, even if it is. So remember, 2 courses will be run simultaneously, right? So you have 4 hours in the morning with one class.
Yes.
Let's say strategy with Matthias.
Yeah.
Marketing with Uzma in the afternoon.
Fine.
Right? So you'll essentially be here in class for 8 hours on week 1, 8 hours in week 7. So even someone in Orlando
can fly in.
Drive, fly, whatever it is, spend a day here, return. So, when you say local market, I don't want you to think hyper locally in just Miami. And
Okay.
I'm thinking,
and this will be on the weekends.
Sorry?
This will, because it used to be the professional used to be like Saturday, Monday or something. I remember I used to teach it.
The Monday is going away.
Okay, so this is only, if I have to come to campus, this is only Saturday, and this is going to be, if it's 7 weeks, it's going to be 2 credits or going to be 3 credits?
No. The online the pre-MBA has always been 3 credits, so it'll be 3 credit
Oh,
classes.
so it'll remain 3 credits versus other.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's clear to me on, because I think, Paul, you were mentioning, of getting classrooms that are more sophisticated classrooms that you can do more with them. Because I think the world is, going back. I was just this weekend at a Google conference, and the idea people love to be together, but it's still they were able to bring in, people from every part of the world. So I think it's a trial and error. This we're kind of trying this out, and I can see John's point in which he says, "Hey, this is going to be a lot of work for us, and I don't want to be slighted to take that back." And also that idea of even you two, I guess that 2U was it, that they kind of put that material on and they dumped it, let's say, into John, and hey, I got to now learn what this other guy did, and it's not my stuff, so it takes time. All right, I understand everybody's issue here. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Sarah, just my general point
Yeah.
here is like, first of all, I feel uncomfortable having this conversation because this is, first of all, we're not ready. We don't even have
Yeah.
a program. We're still developing it.
Yeah.
The kind of, and this, the school council is not a compensation committee. I mean, right?
Right.
It's a curriculum committee. Let's talk about curricular issues. I feel uncomfortable having even this conversation, and I don't want to sound like we're you're trying to block this one from happening because of compensating, and it sounds like we're negotiating compensation because this is not something we should be doing in this format. So I just feel uncomfortable. Happy to discuss, to the very long about curricular issues and if it's a good approach and everything.
So your idea, Paul, of this new program is what? I heard Hari's thing of what do you consider to be flexible programs?
Well, basically at a very high level, I mean, we need to cater better to working professionals. That's the basic general premise. I mean, we don't do a good job. I mean, that I can tell you from the outside and getting in. I mean, it was something that we don't cater very well. And even we do the surveys among students and they want more flexibility and convenience, not just our students, but when you talk to working professionals, our current students, other students, basically they say that this is a challenge, a problem, and everywhere. So basically we have to adapt with the times as an institution, as faculty. We cannot expect everybody to come to our classes when we feel comfortable with teaching them. That's the other thing. That's a general premise. I mean, to the next level, I mean, I know many of you are involved with the strategic planning exercise, and we're talking about personalizing the educational experience, which seems to be gaining traction among faculty and everybody here. With personal, I think it's a great idea because if we command our price tag as an institution and we expect people to come and pay $65,000-$70,000 a year, we need to provide a better experience than just come to our classrooms like everybody else. And so we need to do something more about personalizing. And of course, it's a broader issue that not just on the classroom, but on the teaching, on the advising, on the career. It's a broader issue, but definitely in the classroom, we need to adapt to the individual learner and be where they want to be to learn and not where we want them to be here and come to us. Otherwise, we're not going to be in business too long. That's my general premise. And so that's the basic idea. So we're trying to kind of create a program that is more innovative, that is flexible for working professionals. We try to cater to as many people as possible and provide a very strong educational experience. So yes, that's why I'm very comfortable having a curricular conversation in terms of like is this helping us to provide a great experience? And I personally see that and we can debate on that, but all the traditional, I'm just lecturing you, I can tape it very nicely, with a teleprompter and be able to provide it. So basically, I don't have to repeat it every single class, and the students don't need to come and listen to me for an hour, saying the same thing. So that's the basic idea, and that's the asynchronous portion. I mean, we can debate on that. What is the best format? But for working professionals, they're busy. They don't want to come and sit, and I hear it from students, almost on a daily basis that I don't want to come and just listen to a lecture. I can do it on my free time when I'm driving, when I'm on the weekend. So don't tell me to come, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and have to fight traffic to come to campus to listen to somebody, lecturing for an hour. I mean, that's kind of, and we can debate if it's not, but I hear it a lot from students, why are we doing that? So that's the basic idea of the asynchronous, and let's try to have everything that does not need to be in the classroom as a discussion, something interactive. Let's try to do that. And then it's up to the instructor how much of that portion. If it's 20%, let's do it 20%. If it's 80%, let's do it 80%. So basically you use that classroom time that is pretty expensive for everybody to attend. Physically, let's make it meaningful. So there are discussions, group activities, so people feel that I drove or I went to wherever and there was a meaningful exercise. That's the basic premise. And I'm not an expert on that either. I'm just learning myself. And we have instructional designers that will sit with each faculty member and make sure that this is done, perfectly well. And then, the faculty and the instructional designer will create a course that makes sense and caters well to, the particular course. And some courses will be different, as I mentioned, and we can make it much more, detail as we get into the specifics. So that's the basic idea. Let's create something that is, we cater to a broader audience. So we don't have 3 students as Harry mentioned every year, so we have 30. So we can actually be able to make some money so I can pay the faculty. That's the basic premise that we're, trying to achieve here. So anyway, I can talk more forever, but that's a very comfortable conversation to have. On the compensation, I don't think we should be having this conversation, but, as a general, I'm talking to general faculty, you have my word that definitely do my absolute best to compensate you fairly and generously. That's my promise on that front, but I feel uncomfortable having this conversation with kind of on a school council, because it's supposed to be a curricular aspect of pedagogical and not compensation. So that's kind of my hesitation to talk salaries in this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Paul. And it's not the school, I think I can speak for everybody, it's not the school council's intent to sort of get overly involved in compensation. But we do have sort of a history that, with 2U and some of these other things that came in where it's going to have this aspect of how it changes things is going to be big. And given that we're hoping to increase the flexibility of a lot more programs, it's going to have sort of far-reaching effects. And I think, clarifying what the impact on compensation is going to be is a legitimate question, given we had some surprises in the past. And like I said, I do think that there's sort of 2 sort of issues. The one is, can we adjust the programs so that we can get more people in? And I think a lot of people are very open to that. A lot of people are very open to doing things differently, getting trained to do things differently in terms of instructional design, working with asynchronous components, and even working with those that might be from somebody else. And so there's that, and there is the reality of what the impact on compensation is going to be. And at the moment, I believe the proposal is that the impact will be, it will wind up being about 1/2 of whatever the credit hours are for the courses. So if it's a 3-credit course, faculty will be compensated 1.5. If it's a 2-credit course, it's going to be 1, and that has the implications in terms of loads. Again, not trying to get overly involved in that, but it is sort of a reality, and if this is going to be a sort of template of where it needs to go, that's why we're discussing it.
John, once again, I agree with Paul. I don't think we can discuss compensation until we know what the program looks like.
But Howie, we know what the compensation. We know what the compensation is.
Just let me finish. Okay? For example, a week we meet with the students the first weekend for 3 days and the last weekend for 3 days. I can't understand how I can teach a course like that. All right? I mean, what would I do in the first weekend, and then much of, it seems like in the middle, there you would be teaching them, the regular course kind of stuff. I could see the last weekend being projects and stuff like that, but I don't understand what the first weekend would be. So I'm very, very confused about how the program would work pedagogically. So it's not a given that it has to be the first weekend and the last weekend, is it? Could it be the middle weekend and the last weekend, or?
Ideally, right, if different faculty choose different days of the term to have their in-person week, then the student gets, we lose some of the flexibility, right, because the student is going to concurrently be taking two classes, right? So how if you say, come for week 3 for me, and John says, come week 1 for me, then basically you're adding a trip for them, right? So ideally we'd like for it to coincide, so it minimizes travel for our students. So we've tried this when we presented this to GBEC. I actually had 1-4-7, as in 4-hour meeting in week 1, 4-hour meeting in week 4, and then 4 hours in week 7. But the faculty specifically said, especially those who've taught online, like Robert Gregory told us that starting together in person makes the rest of the online experience go very, very smoothly. So they were very insistent on having the first meeting be there. He said the mid check-in point perhaps is not as relevant. Closing all together, nailing down takeaways, finishing off together is also very important. So this design evolved based on feedback from faculty who've taught in online programs before. So, but tomorrow, if we try this, let's say for 6 months or 9 months, 1 year, whatever it is, and we have to redistribute things, I think we'd be fully open to that. There is some experimentation that we would have to do to get this right.
Okay, because your answer was much more specific than that I could absorb. All right, I'm not above how we're going to do it. I just don't understand.
Good.
Okay, what does personalized mean? Okay, what does that mean? And there was another word you used to describe the program. Wasn't flexibility, but I'll just stick with personalized. All right. How do you personalize? And like in my class, okay, every student does a process improvement project where they pick something like how many fights they have with their parents or something. And then, I take them through a process of how they do it. So that's personalized. I get that. But how do you personalize the statistics for them? Or how do you personalize a marketing or a business law course or something like that?
Yeah.
Basically, we asked Lily Steiner, and we're developing, for those who don't know, is our instructional designer, and we're aiming to create like a more of a formal set of stuff. And I asked her to focus explicitly on, let's call them, technology, AI tools that help with personalization. And when I say personalization, you can personalize the interactivity of exercises, for example, like iterative quizzes. So, for example, talking about the asynchronous session that we discussed. You listen to a video, then there are exercises, and if you get them, then they become harder or easier, or they force you to go back and, of course, you're encouraged to go back and watch the video again. So they're more personalized with the technology that you cannot do it in a classroom, because basically it's very hard to know at the individual level if someone is getting it, and should I go faster, should I go slower. So with technology, you can actually always do something more at the individual level. Your point now is a good one, like individual projects or even group projects that are personalized for a small group of students, and they're working on something that if it's closer to their interest, that's another example of personalization. And basically the idea is to make it find all possible ways to explain to somebody that this curriculum is dedicated to you, and it's not just you're like one of like 50 people in a classroom that somebody's talking to you, and then you take an exam in the end. That's the basic kind of difference that we're trying. So it's a combination of meaningful, obviously face-to-face interactions, and that's an important one. Projects out of the classroom interactions, and using technology intelligently to personalize it. I mean, the whole thing, of course, Howie, is also like we're talking about personalized advising, personalized career coaching. So basically, it's not just the classroom. And your point is well taken. It's not very easy to personalize the classroom experience, and that's why we're here, debating and brainstorming, and we have people who are trained and have PhDs in education and innovation to help us come up with great solutions and technology ways to do that. Yes, go ahead.
Does this exist anywhere that we could see what it would look like? I'm just having a hard time imagining it. That's my problem. Does Houston have a course like this that we could?
We had actually like different. I can ask Lily to send you different material. We haven't implemented them yet here, but there are different solutions that do what I say interactive exercises and like different degrees of difficulty based on how well, or try to cater to you as a or the Q&A can be actually personalized as well. So basically use AI to answer questions based on as opposed to having office hours as somebody's personalizing on that front. You do it with using technology. So basically it's an intelligent algorithm answering questions based on the text. So basically that's another way you feel that I'm getting somebody to respond to my own individual questions. So those are examples of how I'd be happy to discuss, share with you as Lily to send you some materials. But yeah, we're definitely at the infancy at Harvard as far as I can tell.
Because I think the thing that's most missing in our courses is career counseling. Like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Okay, and does that fall into personalization?
Well, I mean, if you have like like executive coaching, like we do in the executive MBA, that's an example of personalization on the coaching side. Or if you have, obviously it's not personalized advising that the university is trying to do, and we're working with them on this new whatever university-wide center. That's an example of that. I mean, obviously the office hours, having an interaction with a professor, that's an example of personalization, but it's everybody does it to some extent. Doing like these personalized coaches on the career side, that's a good example. We're thinking of how we can have more coaches, so basically a student is getting sufficient personalized attention. But yeah, most of the ones in the classroom is something that we need to implement. And but yeah, to your point, how most of them actually focus on project based. So it basically allows them to individualize at the project level. So you ask them to do exercises that they're personalized to each student.
So a quick clarification question. I think either Paul or Harry, you mentioned that depending on what the faculty wants to do, if they want to say 20% is going to be synchronous, or 40% is going to be synchronous, or 80% is going to be synchronous, they have that flexibility to do that. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand that? So is it possible that I say, okay, 80% of mine is going to be synchronous versus Howie says 20% of his is going to be synchronous, and how does that all fit into? Because my sense was that's not the case in the current, and just being focused on this current proposal, that's not the case, or is it?
In the current proposal, we have 18 hours of sync content, 15 hours of async content, making up a 3-credit class, right? So, I mean, we had not contemplated the level of flexibility, but I think what Paul might have been alluding to, and sorry, Paul, for speaking on on your is, I mean, if you tell me that this fundamentally does not work for XYZ class and I need it to be 75-25, I mean, of course, the pedagogical reasons trump whatever it is we do, right? So we have to figure out ways to make this work. This design we think makes sense, but that's an iterative process. I wouldn't know. I can't a priori tell you that marketing is going to be 30-70, MAS is going to be 60-40 type of thing.
Yeah, of course, let me give you my thought as well here on this one. I mean, obviously at the program level, and I think the closest we use is the Gemba program, that at least from what students are saying, and of course you tell me if you agree, it seems to be working relatively well. So basically around the 50-50. I mean, obviously if you kind of say I want to make this 40-60 or 60-40, or and we change it there at your class level. I mean, I don't see it's an issue there. I mean, and we didn't really, not gonna kind of nickel and dime you that okay, Usman's class is 65-35 asynchronous, and we're gonna compensate you less on the asynchronous portion. I mean, I don't think it's gonna go to that level. I mean, of course, I like to say, since we're talking compensation, I mean, obviously everybody could agree that if you're teaching asynchronously, it requires less work. So it's not, yes, it requires more work on the front end, but once you teach it, it requires less work. And that's where we can debate, on the compensation scheme, and can we find faculty who are willing and able to do it. I mean, that's ultimately the finding the right faculty who can do this way. But, but if it's pedagogically better, and of course for working professionals, it seems to be the only mode that is working, we have to adapt to that. And then we go backwards and say what makes sense and what is fair, and how much actual work it entails. And of course, if someone says, well, it's too much work, I'm not getting paid a lot, we have to adjust that. I mean, obviously, if there's nobody who's willing to do that, obviously we need to pay higher salaries. If people are flocking to do that, then we say, okay, fine, then we're too generous. I mean, you realize it's a market approach here. And also from Sarah's point, I mean, just to kind of throw it out there, I mean, we didn't discuss specifically the modality per se here, but, one of the ideas we've been discussing is kind of this high flex mode. And the idea is that, yes, I mean, I know it's tougher to have, and maybe having people in front of you and people remotely, but, if you tell a student, okay, today come to class, or tomorrow go to the downtown location and where I still see people, or stay in your office or stay at home, wherever you are, and you feel that you're getting the same classroom experience and it's working, that's a wonderful thing to do. How we compensate it internally, that's up to us to decide. I mean, and then you figure it out. If Usma says, give me twice the credit, I'll do that, and I'm teaching 20 people online and 20 in front of me, and I need to have 2 sections. I mean, okay, that's kind of quite extreme, but that's fine. I mean, if that's what it takes. If we say, okay, well, I'm teaching essentially the same exact material at the same time, and it's a total of 40, so, and we agree on 1.5 or some money to figure it out, that's what I'm saying. Let's see if it works for the audience, which is the primary consideration, and let's go backwards and see how it works. And just to give you, I mean, I don't know the number here, but in Houston we did that, and some departments, I said departments figured it out, what worked with your faculty. Some actually were very generous, like giving twice the credit or twice the compensation. Some were giving 1.5. Some were giving development fee in the beginning, and some part of the training. So different ways, and we try to still see if it's working as well. Some programs, executive programs, MBA was working remarkably well. The more sophisticated, more experienced the students are, it was working well. Undergrad was working so and so. So you're learning by doing as well, and also the compensation can be adjusted based on how it's working and what's not. I mean, that's kind of my general premise at this point about the different modalities. I mean, if nobody wants to do that, we're not going to do that. I mean, it's and if it's not working pedagogically, we're not going to do it either. If the students complain that we don't like it, then we're going to stop doing that. And my basic premise is to adapt to what the students want, as long as they learn. Obviously, undergrads may want to stay in their dorm and take classes online, but if we think it's not helping them and they're not learning, then we have to adjust. But if it works better for them, and we say, no, we have to force you to come to the classroom because that's what we want, well, they may go some other university that allows them to do that. And I hear a lot of, USC and Georgetown, they're actually doing that, and students seem to like it. So it's not exactly like only for large public institutions that seems to be working. So anyway, we have to be flexible and adaptable to what students need, and continuously, learning how to make this, working for us.
So just to be clear, the reason I was asking that question had nothing to do with compensation, but more in terms of certain classes would lend themselves better than others to this kind of modality. So for example, if I have this in my class, I send them, okay, there are these videos, whatever, you can watch this. So my class is pretty much all on a flip modality, that I don't teach anything that they can find in a book in my class. So that's the whole idea, that, okay, you can do that. And the classes that are already working on that modality, where they're using most of the in-class time for something that can't be done other ways, would be less amenable to this kind of teaching. And the reason I was asking if faculty have that kind of flexibility, it would be easier to sell this to the faculty, that look, if your class is not flexible to this modality, you probably don't want to teach in this program, you can teach in some other program, or vice versa. So that's why I was asking for that clarification, that right now, how is it working? And not so much in terms of compensation, but mostly for pedagogical reasons, that, maybe if it's math, you can watch that video and it could work.
Yeah, I was glad to hear, and I think it's an important point about the pedagogy has to trump all. I remember when I was first starting to teach, there was, for core courses, we would have a group come together to decide what we were going to do. And we decided that we need to give flexibility. There's certain content that should be taught for a core course, but in terms of what cases you choose or the approaches you take, you want to give that flexibility to the faculty, because if they teach the way they can teach best, even though it's a core course, that flexibility is going to improve the experience for the students. With the asynchronous content being developed for, let's say, a 3-year period, everybody who teaches that course has to use that pedagogical material for the 3 years. And that can be sort of challenging or compromising to a faculty's approach. And I think generally the faculty are willing to give up some flexibility in terms of the modality and how they approach things to help the school and these programs, but here you're giving up pedagogical sort of, you're asking for changes to some pedagogy that could actually affect the delivery beyond the modality in terms of what the faculty do best. So just to be very clear, let's say Yadong develops something, and if Wei and myself and Mariana, that's the strategy people, all have to teach using that developed asynchronous component, which is a significant component, that's going to be challenging for us in terms of how we deliver things, the examples we've developed, the way we've been able to connect and to just put our experience to bear the best we can for the students.
Is all of, Harry, are you the one who, is there a committee that decides what this is, or is this all on your shoulders, Harry, on how to develop it?
How to develop, so I mean, in terms of individual course content?
No, just instruction.
So, I think we have instructional designers who are available who will be able to help faculty think through their options. But the way we're thinking about it is, so when I say 18 hours versus 15 hours has to be sync versus async, right? We're really thinking about what the market can bear in terms of students coming into campus a certain number of times and how we position that for the market. How you work that individually into your class. So for instance, the 2 hours of asynchronous, right? Maybe how you just say, read a book by Deming, right? And that accounts for 2 hours. You don't have to have a video. So there's a lot of flexibility within that in terms of how you approach it. Now, to the points that were previously made, right? Ideally, if there are two faculty who teach a class, typically, in the ops class in our department, then we would have some agreement on what roughly the async content should be. Async is, right now it's set up to be less than half of the class. So some agreement on what the core concepts are, how we're going to be delivered, maybe even a textbook, right, that you all agree on, and then go off into the 18 hours of synchronous content is where you would actually be able to leverage your own individual style and have the flexibility to move forward. So yes, I think recognize that this imposes some constraints. With PMBA, let me say this carefully. At this time, it's hard for me to imagine kind of multiple sections and so on, given that we are doing this. But if that happens, of course, fully recognize this. To John's point, I think the switching from one instructor to another does impose some switching cost. I get that fully. So that is a wrinkle that we have to address. So
I guess my real problem is I need to talk to an instructional designer.
Yeah, so there are so many tools that are
available.
available.
Have a meeting where we have an instructional designer so they could explain to us what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's the whole idea. How you just to help develop the course and having worked with the instructional designer, the good ones, and Lily Steiner is one of the better ones I've seen and worked with. They will actually sit down with you and tell you kind of how to best structure your materials. And yes, if it's like more of a math, you can basically do even 90% or even 100% asynchronous, and it's going to work equally or even better. Then let's do that. And that's possibly one course you can say, yes, let's make it whatever, up to 100% asynchronous, and that's fine. It's going to work even better for the students. And then you embed more flexibility and projects and other ways to enhance that part. If a class, how is class said, no, mine more than 20%, and the instructional designer says, okay, that's the absolute best, yeah, let's do that, and then 80% will be synchronous or however you want to make the class. If it's a negotiation class, you may have more interactive exercise. So the idea is it's a proposal, and we have to put something on paper right now, but every course I think should be designed on an individual basis. So Usman's class on marketing should be designed as such. How is class on analytics, management science differently, John's one, and every class should be developed differently. And if roughly it's about 50-50, that's kind of a good ratio that Harry mentioned that that's what the market seems to like. But yeah, if it's 60 or 40 or whatever, let's kind of see what what students prefer. I think the argument here is let's try to personalize on the student side with the assumption that they can learn with a very key component. And I guess we're not going to solve it here. Every instructor has to figure out my learning objectives and is the modality that the way I'm teaching, be able to convey the learning. And I think it should be done at the individual course level with the aid of an instructional designer. And how, yes, we hired Lily, and she's building a team, and we're working on kind of providing the resources for faculty to create those courses. So and then there's a development fee. In terms of which is quite generous. At least how much, Christine? It was 12,500, right?
I was having an issue with the mute. Yes, 12,500 is the development fee used right now for the online PMBA, with $5,000 in revisions.
Yeah. So it's not about compensation here, but it's actually quite generous. It's one of the better ones I've seen out there. So
if everybody on the school council could have an hour with the instructional designer, and then we could revisit this conversation, I think it would be a much more productive conversation.
okay,
I don't know if that's, to be honest, I don't think if that's going to be very helpful, because what I hear from the instructional designer, I can't really communicate that well to my department. So if I think this is also, since this is the direction that the school is going to head, it might not be a bad idea to have a school-wide meeting where the instructional designer can give everyone a sense of what is possible with their courses. So that might be a broader effort. But so that said, I think I want to emphasize one thing, which is that I agree with the essence of this idea that we want to become more agile. We want to deliver, we're in marketing, so we want to deliver the product that the customers want, right? That's not, we don't want to sell what we have, but what they want. The question is whether we understand fully what is it that they are wanting, because my main concern here is that I don't want to end up delivering a product that would not be of high quality because we are sort of constrained in the structure in which we are delivering. And if the structure doesn't impede the quality of what we deliver, then I think it's no-brainer that we need to do all this.
Is it what students want or what the company's hiring them want?
So I guess,
go ahead, Paul.
Let me answer this. I mean, obviously, ultimately, it's both. Obviously, we need to teach students. And so, yes, if they want to be hired, or of course, if they're working professional, they are learning, so there is some value in how we teach. So basically, somebody is willing to hire them or promote them or whatever, keep them employed. I mean, obviously, of course, we have to cater to the working professional, or making sure that because to say, well, we expect all of you to come 8 to 10 in the morning because that's where we would like to be, and they cannot come and they learn nothing, or they go to some other institution. I mean, yes, I'm not saying that everything that we say is. Personally, I believe that what we're discussing will make it a better learning experience and a better learning outcome. That's my personal, and research suggests that this is the case because we don't learn in usually 4-hour increments from 6 to 11 o'clock at night because we're tired after work, but actually kind of creating smaller increments and designing in smaller videos and exercises and smaller things at our leisure. That's how we learn. So there is some kind of research on that part. But what I like to say is that yes, we need to kind of get the faculty, and the instructional designer will be sitting with each faculty. So I guess to your point, how the answer is yes. But to make it meaningful, is you take your class that you want to develop, and you sit with Lily or one of your instructional designers, and you design it. I mean, she can always give you a presentation among the faculty and what we're doing and what she's doing and what this team that she's developing is going to do. But I think it's getting to specifics, of a course that will make it really valuable. That's my general thing. I think please reach out to Claire. Lily Steiner is her name, and probably she was in many of these meetings, and she'd be happy to talk to you. I mean, I think that will be it. I don't want to impose on the school council that you have to sit for an hour and all of you to, but because we need to also move on with this program, and Harry knows the details, but we need to promote the program, so to make sure we have students in the fall, so at least it's a meaningful exercise, because to have you sitting there and design courses that we don't have students in front of us, that's probably a bad idea. So anyway, I mean, this kind of idea is more like, let's become more flexible, and let's work together to develop a more flexible curriculum and program that actually is even better than what we offer in a traditional format. That's kind of the whole idea. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here, and the idea is to obviously, by definition, include the faculty in the design process. It's not going to be an instruction designer designing courses and telling you this is how you teach. The idea is to sit down and develop these courses and compensate you for that. And I think it's and honestly, if nobody's willing to do that 12,500, which I think is quite good, then we try to increase it if that's the case. And if the numbers work, then we'll make it higher, or whatever it takes to actually make it reasonable and fair and generous for faculty. That's the general premise. But we need to move on with this kind of at least a proposal, so at least we can start marketing the programs and making sure we have students to teach. Let's at least move forward, and we can do all these things in parallel, Harry and everybody else.
Yeah,
And
two quick
I'm
things.
happy to have here like Lily to talk to the faculty at any fora. That she'll be happy to do that, and she's very excited about what she's doing, and we have many conversations. And happy to share all of these materials she's been sending us about optimal class size for different formats of online. I mean, there's a lot of research that she's familiar with, and that's what we need to have people who are not just saying I want smaller classes, but what's an ideal class size to enhance the learning experience.
Yeah, two quick things. One is I've met with Lily twice since she's been here. I'm working on that global alumni setup, and that requires. So she's very open to doing this. She's eager to help. So I think it's important to kind of get a handle for people to get some understanding about what are things that they can do going forward. That's good information to get. And that's the main thing that I just wanted to say.
What do we need to do? Sorry, what's the next steps here? We're not. This is not a proposal that we need to vote on today, or is it? I'm a little confused.
Yes, ideally, I mean, whether it's today, email, I mean, that's up to the council. But my deadline is by Jan 6th. I need to submit the proposal for grad council. So if you guys have specific feedback for me on items regarding the proposal, please let me know. My goal is to actually work on it over the break, get it in. Because if I miss that, then I miss a month, and it'll go into February and make it more difficult for us to launch.
Okay, perfect. The reason I ask is because I just want to make sure I can take this back to the department, get their feedback, and relay all this discussion to them. And we're meeting tomorrow, so maybe I can provide if there's any feedback that comes in, and maybe we can hold another meeting for a vote, because I never feel comfortable voting on anything without connecting back with the department as to how they feel about it.
Right. So at this point, any further questions for Hari or Paul or Christine?
Well, Harry, I apologize. If you send something out, I missed it. Could you please send it out again?
Absolutely.
So
the
I
proposal?
can my department.
Yeah, I'm happy to send it out to you. I'll do that right away.
That was part of the agenda for the meeting, for the school council meeting last month.
Okay, great. But could you please send that out?
Yeah, we will.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
All right, great. So with that, thanks, Paul and Hari and Christine.
One thing I'd like to say, John,
sorry.
Obviously, as I mentioned to everybody here, well, I'm not happy with the 2U overall agreement. I think it's terrible, especially since we're stuck for another, 7 years or whatever. So I'm not at all happy with that, even the agreement and so forth. Of course, from what I hear from students and from faculty, I mean, there are some positive things about the program, about how it's developed, how it has been developed, how it is running, and this is like a purely online program. So yeah, there is much to learn about how this is working. So I guess the best practices, and of course, the idea here is to blend the online component, the synchronous, asynchronous, whatever is done, with the face-to-face component, and even try to make it even more exciting for somebody downtown location, campus location, so you can make it even more attractive for students that we're really trying to go where you are as opposed to come here at a fully online or come to campus. So that's the basic kind of vision. Anyway, I mean, the idea is anyway, let's forget it to you. I mean, at this point, the only thing we're trying to renegotiate and see if we can get out of that contract. So we're working with Christine and Patty and the legal counsel to see what are our options at this point. But let's make a better program. That's the whole idea. And our whole idea of this, let's call it this personalized MBA program, is to take as much of the online MBA students from the 2U to this program. So the basic premise to say yes to some student, well, this is a better program because you can personalize it even more. And yes, even if you want 100% online, yes, this might not be 100% online, but if we push it, you can make it as flexible for you, and you can take advantage of the face-to-face interaction. At the same time, there is a fair amount of online. And I guess, Sarah, to your point, if someone says, I really want 100% online, I'd rather have a person, at least financially, coming to connect virtually to our classrooms and taking that online as opposed to going to the 2U, because there I'm losing 60% of the money,
Yeah.
and here I'm getting 100%.
It can be exception cases.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, and of course, make sure that if they're 100% online, which I doubt it's going to be 100%, because most students, even the online students, want to be on campus and they like it, and most of them are actually, kind of relatively local. They live in Miami, they live in Florida, so they can come, a few times a year to come to some session, and they like that part. But I guess my point is that as long as we can show that even that one student, when 100% online and comes to this program, and let's say, extreme case, never comes to campus, and that student learns, I'd rather have that student as opposed to going to the 2U program. That would be my personal view, because we're making more money, and I think it's, we can provide a better experience, more options, so people feel that it's a more valuable, more personalized experience. So anyway, so that would be my general premise there, and of course, we need to figure out the specific details there.
Okay. All right, thanks. So I think the council should just do a quick sort of exec session and just work out some logistics of what we need to do going forward, obviously getting back to our departments and such. So thanks, Paul.
What's the deadline?
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you. I can see you. Happy holidays.